Christ Am Disciple, aka Anson Phillip. Just woke up only a couple minutes ago, so I haven't combed my hair or anything. But I was going through social media, doing what I do with looking at the algorithms and stuff. First of all, I wanted to say shout out to everybody out there. You can support this channel via PayPal. I'll try and put the link in the comment section when I can. But getting on to YouTube, the algorithms, I know I've gotten money from some subscribers, which is really nice. Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. I want to give a shout out to a couple of channels. Of course, my sponsor, who sponsored my channel so nicely, uh, Anti-Inflammatory Foods by Joanne. Shout out to her, as well as I want to also give a shout out to two other channels that I don't sponsor, but I will do that on my next stream, next video, so I can highlight those channels. But let's get to the topic at hand. The topic here is Restore the Snyderverse, why it is very possible, and why I believe Warner Brothers actually is trying to put down a concrete, really good plan. Now, James Gunn and Peter Safran, let me give you the hierarchical structure a little bit. They are actually the co-heads or the co-CEOs or the co-chairs of DC Studios. DC Studios is a subset of the entire Warner Brothers Discovery franchise, meaning that you've got Max DeLuca and Pam, not Max, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy, who oversee all of the properties of Warner Brothers Discovery. So they are in charge of Warner Brothers Pictures, New Line Cinema, um, Warner Brothers Animation Group. Okay, they oversee all of that. And then uh, David Zaslav, he is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. He oversees all of Warner Brothers properties as well as Discovery's properties. So he's the CEO of all of that. So that's how it goes. Uh, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, as Sil Abdul, shout out to Sil on explaining this. And this is the first impression I got when I heard that Wonder Woman 3, the story and script that Patty pitched to them, um, was sort of turned down by Max DeLuca and Pam Abdi. That's the first two names they mentioned in the article I saw in the Hollywood Reporter. And then James Gunn and Peter Safran also turned it down. But it wasn't because they said it wasn't in line with their 10-year plan. But I do think that um, it really was more Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi that said no go because everybody was in agreement. So I don't think it was just Gunn and Safran. I want to say something else that I noticed that it seems as though, remember, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi were sort of overseeing DC and DC Studios, right? They had two hats. They were overseeing Warner Brothers Pictures, New Line Cinema, and Warner Brothers Animation Group, and then they were also overseeing DC Studios. And in their time, we saw the rehiring of and people getting into movies of the former Trinity, right? Because we didn't have Ben Affleck; he was coming back to get erased, and then of course Henry Cavill appeared again, talked about coming back, and apparently he had this multi contract, it seemed, deal going down. Maybe it was just verbal, maybe it was still hashing out the details. I don't know. But then all of that kind of started, James Gunn was saying, no, all of that's not true, and blah, blah, blah. And then they said, Gunn now took over the studios aspect with Safran. Let me say this. There is a 10-year plan that Warner Brothers has, okay? But the details of the 10-year plan and how it's actually going to be executed and how it's actually going to be carried out, those details James Gunn and Peter Safran seem to be working out, okay? Now, people say, well, why James Gunn of all people? And then James Gunn takes in movies just not. It's just the things he wants to push just don't. He. I mean, everybody's like he's throwing up alarm bells with everybody. But what you have to understand is James Gunn is part of a team. He's with Peter Safran. There's a reason why they have two people. They have co-heads. James Gunn is part of a team, and that team is still under the umbrella, even though it's the responsibility. They're not gonna micromanage that team. It's still under the umbrella of Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca, because Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, they oversee the whole thing with Warner Brothers, right? They oversee the DC Studios aspect of it and the other movies that have come out. Now, apparently, because they greenlit Wonder Woman 3, or Patty Jenkins was greenlit, it's greenlit. Wonder Woman 3 is going to happen regardless. David Zaslav's directive is he wants the Trinity up there. So somehow, some way, that Trinity has to come up. And as Dwayne the Rock Johnson said, Henry Cavill is our generation Superman. Uh, Gal Gadot is our generation's Wonder Woman, and Ben Affleck is our generation's Batman. When it comes to these guys, so those guys somehow, some way, have to fit into this 10-year plan. Now, what James they may be disagreeing amongst themselves. James Gunn probably thinking, just completely reboot the system or whatever. They're hashing out the details. I'm sure they're trying to work it out. But ultimately, in the end, David Zaslav is going to have to put his foot down, and he's going to say he's going to listen to their pitches and stuff, and he may re-emphasize that he wants the Trinity there. And from what I see, the brand is really built around Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, the Trinity. This is how DC brands are built. So no matter what James Gunn may do with other interesting characters and how he wants to take minor characters and do things with them, which would be great. But that's his forte. I don't think that the DC. I don't think. It would be completely suicidal, like everybody has been saying. Everybody has been saying this. It would be completely suicidal to just abandon Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And the fact that we have an established Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, who everybody loves that Superman. Everybody loves Henry Cavill Superman. Everybody's happy that Henry Cavill came back. Everybody's happy that with Gal. Nobody's ever complained about Gal's Wonder Woman and how she depicted it. And no one complains about Ben Affleck's Batman in terms of how he depicts it and how the actor does it. They may complain about the material and how Batman's carried about, whatever. They don't. This those three actors are phenomenal actors. Okay, and so there's no reason why the Trinity, I think, will be removed. I don't want to take too much more time. I think I'm trying to spend about 10 minutes on this, but I do believe that that is not part of the 10-year plan is not to erase these characters and get rid of them. All right. I also truly believe that this 10-year plan, whatever it is, um, has to involve Zack Snyder. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm going to explain a couple of reasons why this has to happen. Okay. And they have not had success otherwise. The guy for this universe, Christopher Nolan picked the right guy. It was Zack Snyder. And we see it. Zack Snyder is incredibly good at building worlds. He's building out right now the Rebel Moon verse. He's building out the Army verse, okay, Army of the Dead verse. This dude is creating worlds constantly over and over again. This is what this guy does. The Kevin Feige of DC is Zack Snyder, and so it really, if I was to be honest with you guys, I mean, James Gunn is cool and everything, and I know they were trying to reach out a Kevin Feige figure, but quite frankly, if there's anybody who can build out a universe and really get the fans excited for any universe whatsoever he's doing, is Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder was a perfect fit for DC, you know, and all the hate and all the misunderstanding of what he was doing and how he was approaching it, it's sad because, quite frankly, um, Zack Snyder creates so much buzz for his movies, and I'm sure Rebel Moon next year is going to be very successful for Netflix, and Netflix will have a good time with that. Not to mention the other projects that Zack Snyder is doing, which he's free to do. He has no holds barred, so you get to see Zack Snyder at his most Snyder-ish way. I can't see, I really can't see you going wrong with Zack Snyder. You just can't go wrong with the guy. And so um, they've tried to reboot this universe a number of times. Okay, they've tried with with Justice League 2017, but even before that, the first time they tried to deflect and reboot was when they took David Ayer's Suicide Squad. This is the first movie that they tried to do a pivot with. Okay, the Suicide Squad. David Ayer was coming out with a more soulful, more solemn but yet funny movie, and they took that and much more graphic and much more story, much more meat on the bones, and they took that and they made it into a pop sort of thing that was lighter. The greatest moments in that movie were the time when they were inside of the bar, right? That was the greatest movie. And I'm sure there were much more moments than that, and much more spectacular and much more fantastic moments, that movie would have had it been done properly. But it was again done by committee. It was then done by the studio, interfered with it. And it's what Warner Bros. Needs to realize is the old regime, not the new one here, but the old one was trying to force a certain type of movie. And that was influenced by Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns felt that he could give that studio that. And it didn't work out. It did not work out. In fact, they tried it with Wonder Woman a little bit. They tried it with the Studio Squad blatantly. They had to back off of that. Patty had her way with Wonder Woman. She worked a little bit with Jeff Johns, a little bit, but it was Zach's story. And Wonder Woman was a tremendous success because of the amount of detail and the amount of attention that was paid, not just to the story, but also to the acting that carried up, so much meaning in the story. So Patty Jenkins did an excellent job with that one. And it was it was a little bit marvelous. I'm gonna deny it, but it stayed very true to the world that shaped. And so as a result of that, it was really a tremendously impactful movie. Um, so because Warner Bros. Got that success with Wonder Woman, and they kind of tweaked it back from the Suicide Squad, they decided this is the formula they were going to go with, and it just didn't work. I mean, it fell flat with Justice League 2017 was the worst thing they could have possibly done. Did I enjoy the movie? I watched it 10 times in the cinema. Did I enjoy it? No, I was apologizing mostly for it, for the things I was saying. It's better than Marvel movies in terms of CGI, whatever. And I was apologizing for it until I realized I got something so much better in store. And we were hyped for that thing, and then but it came in a different incarnation, and thankfully we got something even better than we were going to get into, and longer too, and than we were going to get in 2017. So it turned out to be bigger and better, and that's that's a blessing in and of itself. And Zach got to really show his vision, in spite of everything that happened with Autumn, and dedicated to Autumn and all of that. So it was just a great experience, all around the journey, everything, right? So I wouldn't pay for anything to change there, but I'm just saying the studio failed. Okay, it had a little success with Wonder Woman 2017. Of course, that was a significant film for so many different reasons. But the thing about it is, um, they tampered. They tampered with BVS. They tampered with Suicide Squad, and then they wanted to tamper even more, and Patty stood up to them. And because of that, Patty got her vision on the screen for the most part, except for the third act. Okay, and the Patty, I don't know why Patty teaming up with Zack Snyder is a killer combination. It's a killer combination. You don't really need to have Jeff Johns, but if Jeff Johns is in there, that's good too. Because again, the best of all worlds, Jeff Johns, Snyder, Patty, they create something. They created something beautiful. Um, and Jeff is a facilitator of your ideas, of course. But I would say that the best movies I've seen on screen are the movies where Zach has something to do with it. Okay, and I'm not talking about producing. I'm talking about actively doing something with the directors. He gives the directors free reign. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. But he has a way of his team and the people he has. Now, Warner Bros. Will say that maybe Zach is too expensive. I don't believe that. Because here's the thing. You got to put out money to make big money. If you want to make really big money, you got to put out money to make really big money. You want to make $1 billion films, then you got to put out money to make those $1 billion films. It's just what it is. And I get this feeling. Warner Brothers, I've seen it with Christopher Reeve. These guys, they want to pay the actors and everybody, and then they want to just, pinch on the budget of a movie. And that, to me, that's the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Todd Phillips and Joaquin Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, put up a great movie in Joker, a movie that the regime at the time did not believe in. Emmerich and Walter Amada. So, quite frankly, I would say that you know Warner Brothers keeps on dropping the ball, but hopefully with this regime they don't drop the ball. Hopefully, when they see the reaction from DC fans and Snyder fans and just the whole entire fandom about the nonsense that's going on. I see some people saying, "Oh, the reboot is in order. Yeah, James Gunn should reboot the universe." I was listening to these fools talk. You're gonna take the Generation Superman. You're gonna take the Wonder Woman, which, yeah, okay, her last movie flopped, but that wasn't because of Gal. Okay, it wasn't because of Gal. You know, Black Adam flopped. It wasn't because of Henry. You know, um, well, Ben Affleck hasn't been in a movie that flopped recently because Zack Snyder Justice was glorious. But Ben Affleck, what's his incentive? You know, um, it keeps sticking. It keeps sticking Ben Affleck into movies, and the whole deal was that Ben Affleck would get his own movie to do, right? Henry would get to do his own movie. Gal would get to do her own movie, and I do not believe Patty Jenkins is expendable. I don't believe that. This, you see, I'm trying to tell y'all, Patty is the perfect person to direct Wonder Woman. I know a lot of people saying Zack Snyder. No, 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 no. It's Patty Jenkins. What people have to understand, and again, she will want her creative freedom, so she is free to do whatever she wants. I mean, if she walks off on this job, I hope she doesn't, because I think that Patty, once again, is the perfect director for Wonder Woman. Period. I just hope that Patty would. I know that no director wants to have limits on them and have these. You need to do this and this and this, especially if they take their time and energy out to write a script, or and get the script done. And I'm pretty sure Patty probably wants to do the Wonder Woman returning to the Amazons, something like that. And but all I would say is, um, based on the plan that Abdi and DeLuca have, it's very important that whatever Patty does, it comes back to the league forming the Justice League, because they want to do another Justice League movie. Now, Patty could do another independent movie that doesn't tie into that, all right? Or maybe a movie at the end of a movie, it has to tie into it. But the important thing is, whatever the story is that Patty's doing, it has to fit in with the general plan. They want to reform the Justice League. They want that Justice League to come back. And I don't think DeLuca and Abdi have changed. That same directive that they did, James Gunn and Peter Safran got to work that thing to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? So James Gunn can say whatever he wants. He control us. He can whatever he wants to do. But ultimately, in the end, they want a team up movie. That's where the money comes. And they want that trinity. That's what Zaslav said from the beginning, and that's what they want. They want that team up movie. And they don't want to go find new actors and all of that and reboot the whole thing, which is what James Gunn and Peter Safran, it sounds like they're saying, but maybe that's not what the directive is. So, um, I would say that that's the thing. Now, what I'm going to say, though, is James Gunn is there, Peter Safran's there, that's what they got. Okay? Maybe, I don't know if they reached out now. They said in that Warner Brothers never reached out to Zack Snyder. I can't understand why you wouldn't do that. You should contact that dude. Either way, it's not rocket science to me. Anyway, Zack Snyder, Deborah Snyder, those are people who should be back at the helm of DC. That's just the way I feel about it. And those guys were doing a very good job. Warner Brothers was trying to rush the process where it could have been done a little bit better. And Zach was able to pull out a lot of things that they requested of him, because the studio will have certain requests, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I truly believe that they should pursue those two people. Um, I don't know why they're not doing it. I think that's the only way forward. Clearly, the tone and tenure of Zaslav's regime was that, and it seems as though they were heading towards that direction. I don't think they have changed the course. That's why I said I think Restore the Snyderverse is inevitably going to happen. What we need to know is, and this is the thing. See, I'm trying to get, just because it's another regime, the old regime that all these old projects are under, doesn't mean you have to let the whole thing go to hell, right? Um, all that's necessary is saying restore the Snyderverse, bring Zack Snyder back, and fans will actually go and invest in these movies. Otherwise, you're just putting out stuff that nobody's going to go watch in the cinema and wasting a whole set of money. Maybe you say, well, that money's lost. Let's just move on from there. But then you remember all the actors, all the creative people, and it's a very disheartening thing, and it gives the studio a bad reputation. So hopefully they're not doing that. They're not going down that line. That's just a terrible way to go with the brand. I mean, the brand has been failing for the last, what is it, 2000 and since 2019, it's been failing. Well, before that. So, see, since 2017, the brand's basically been failing. The DC brand. The only things that's been saving the DC brand, Aquaman and Joker, and the Batman. Matt Reeves the Batman, Todd Phillips Joker, and Aquaman. Since 2017, that's the only thing that saved the brand. Not even Shazam. Shazam didn't really make enough blimp for people to say, "Oh yeah, that's good DC movies." Now there are a certain set of people who are rocking with DC, and they've been rocking with DC, or they've been saying positive things about the changes. But those people are not the majority of DC fans. The majority of DC fan morale is just at an all time low right now. They're not happy about nothing, and you saw it in the tremendous outbursts, not just on Twitter but on social media as a whole. Um, so I don't think that James Gunn and Peter Safran want to be the most hated people in DC. I don't think they want to be that. Um, why do you come up? The question would be why you come across to DC to mess up a brand. Even though James Gunn, to be honest with you, the things that he highlights or the things he brings forth, and again, that's his personality and his sense of humor and stuff. But the things he wants to harp on are not necessarily the things most fans are even excited about. So, like, he brings up these, obscure characters, and the fans will be like, some fans will be like digging it because they're James Gunn fans or whatever. But most fans would be like, what the hell is this? We don't care about this. This is not where we were going. We want to continue where we were going. So I think that's the problem. The morale of DC fans right now is at an all-time low. Now, does that mean that these guys are not probably going in the direction that the DC fans want them to go? Again, I can't say. Um, they need to come out and speak explicitly about the direction they want to go in. They have not done that. Uh, they talk about they're still working on things. That's not good enough, obviously. But I would say, by and large, Max DeLuca and Pam Abdi are above James Gunn and Peter Safran, and then David Zaslav is above them. That's enough buffer. Clearly, Max DeLuca and Pam Abdi, if they don't find that something is good for the future, they're just going to say, "Hey, right." They're going to respect directors and everything, but they're going to say, "Well, this has to fall in line with this stuff." So the fact that Wonder Woman 3 has been, it sort of still needs to be revised and stuff is good, because it's quality first, and these are things they have control over. They didn't have control over Black Adam to the extent of creative choices and stuff. They were able to get Superman in there, so David Zaslav was able to get Superman into Black Adam, where as Sil Abdul said, Superman wasn't always there all along. All right, if he was, he would have showed up at San Diego Comic Con. But he wasn't there all along, and Henry Cavill only recently got that call, and he was delighted to put on the suit again. So he got his little gig. But quite frankly, where Dwayne the Rock Johnson dropped the ball, he really dropped it. I mean, Warner Brothers and David. Again, I'm probably a decision by Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Probably a decision by the old regime. And Dwayne the Rock Johnson decided to hold fast to that. But you know, You dropped the ball, man. You should have had the Hans Zimmer theme. You should have had Superman in the black suit, you know, and you would have had everybody on board, and that would have been it. Black Adam would have blown up. Of course, the trajectory of things would have changed. It would have been more Dwayne the Rock Johnson centric. So maybe that was a good thing to have avoided. I mean, we were talking about landmines everywhere, but people would have supported it. But the fact that you would have embraced the Snyderverse, or even said restore the Snyderverse, or something like that, if Dwayne the Rock Johnson did that, it was over. You would have gotten the Aquaman effect. It didn't matter your movie was crap. Snyder fans would have supported you. And, you know, but again, it looked like, Dwayne and they was trying to replace the Snyderverse, so maybe that worked out in its best interest. Because it looked like they were going to reboot the universe through Dwayne and his ideas. But, because Toby Emmerich and they was like, yeah, this is the way, and that just got foiled. So maybe this is the best route that's going with a new slate of people, and people from the previous regime, they're kind of out the game now. Almost completely flushed out because everything they tried to do failed, more or less. Their only success was Aquaman. Toby Emmerich and they was in charge. They kind of changed up Aquaman a bit, and then also Shazam. That's it. They got nothing else in the DCEU. So I just wanted to put that on wax. I'm going to take about 30 minutes. So I'm 26 minutes, 40 something seconds. So I just wanted to say that those pieces. I think that WBD on a whole wants something like the Snyderverse, with you would have some humor in it and stuff like that, but much more of taking the characters much more seriously. Why James Gunn? James Gunn probably, I don't know why. Some people say, well, the Kevin Feige like figure in there. James Gunn's not a Kevin Feige figure. He's just not. You know, he's good at taking obscure characters and making them interesting. Usually they're edgy, flawed characters, rag team of people together. That's why people thought he would be able to do well with the Suicide Squad. And that movie did not do well at all at the box office. Even David Ayer's chopped up version did much better than his version at the box office. People talk about, well, it's HBO figures and it's Peacemaker series. Again, Peacemaker does well on HBO Max, right? It's not going. They're not. Netflix and those things are not asking to license Peacemaker and see it all over the place. And theatrically, the Suicide Squad came out, and it went onto some other platforms, but not a lot of platforms wanted it either. It played mostly on HBO Max. My point being, it's just as much a flop as Wonder Woman was. You might as well have put Patty Jenkins as the CEO of DC Films. But you know what? I'm not going to lament on that. I'm not going to stay on that. He is right now the head of DC Films. Let's see how well he can do. DC Studios. Let's see how he can do this. For me, this is like a rehash of Jeff Johns versus and John Berg being co-heads of DC Films. It's just you just change up the names, change up the people, but seems like the same thing. Nonetheless, we'll see how it works out for them. Of course, Abdi and DeLuca are above them, and of course they get to manage whatever. But if they're not managing properly, I can see Abdi and DeLuca stepping in and saying, "Okay, we need to clean slate with you guys and get somebody else who can get the results we want." Because that's how Zaslav moved. They would just cancel you. They don't care if you can't make whatever needs to be happening. You can't make it work. You're gone. That's how Zaslav works. Because he wants results. So they can't get results. Black Adam did not create results. Even though Zaslav said, they were satisfied with the film and what it did. And to be honest with you, Black Adam did much better than Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, The Suicide Squad. That's a good thing. Meaning, Zaslav and they can look at it and say, okay, that's Zack Snyder's style, emulated Ghost Places. All right. If we had taken this movie and made it even more serious, less cringe, not so muddled a story. The story kind of muddled. Um, a little bit more meat on the bones, giving us something that we didn't see before, and something that, what I mean by see before, I mean quality wise and story wise. Just a little bit of that. Um, it would have appealed to a lot more people. And of course, connecting it to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was a tremendous hit that just came out. Even though it didn't get a theatrical run. Now people are saying, well, the film cost $70 million. It only made 15 million, $16 million. It only made $16 million in the home box office. I'm like, well, show me for that year, 2021, how many. Show me for 2021 how many films made as much money as that in box office. How many? You're gonna find out it is actually, I think it was the third highest or fourth highest uh, home box office for that year, and that's domestic box office. We're not talking globally. Okay, so that film did great. And remember, in terms of home domestic box office, we haven't even talked digital sales. We haven't even talked that, right? So, I mean, it made more than James Gunn The Suicide Squad, which had a theatrical run. So the home box office for a movie that did not get a theatrical run, which is an old movie, did better than almost all of Warner Brothers DC films or not even DC films, forget that. All of Warner Brothers films that came out. Okay, so to tell me that the Snyder Cut wasn't successful is ridiculous. Oh, it made a loss because of the investment. Are you crazy? It didn't even get a chance to go into theaters. It hasn't even gotten a chance to go into theaters. I'm very intrigued to see what happens if the Snyder Cut goes into theaters. Very intrigued. I want to see what would happen. How much money it would make globally, because we haven't got any global figures for the Snyder Cut. We haven't. Period. We don't know what it made. We don't know if it made back its 70 million easy globally. You know what I mean? So and if it's anything like what we think it would be, meaning, let's say you make $15 million in the box office locally, all right? Locally. Remember, this thing is streaming, digital. It's making money as we speak. People still buying the Snyder Cut, not just in Blu-rays and stuff, but on digital. But let's just you try to collect all the money globally together, right? We expect the American box office probably to be the highest box office. Maybe China. I know China, they were streaming it like crazy in China as well. But ultimately, in the end, that movie made bank. I'm sure it made back its money, which is why they were thinking about going towards the Snyderverse. Okay, because Zack Snyder's a dude who, the one thing you can tell you about it, almost all his movies are profitable. The only movies that did not make profit, I believe, was Watchmen and Sucker Punch. All of his other movies made profit. He is not a director that does not make profit with his movies. Okay, and I think he wrote a couple movies. He's been a writer, principal writer on a couple movies. Okay, which he directed. So Zack Snyder is not one of them guys who don't make you money. The only way he's not gonna make you money is if the studio gets so involved in his movies that they screw him over. They screwed him over with Sucker Punch as well. He had a director's cut for Sucker Punch, which made the movie much more clear and made more sense. Same thing for Watchmen. And again, it's always about runtime. People say, well, Zack Snyder, he makes too long a movie. James Cameron makes long movies. When the Fox executive said, James Cameron, you need to cut runtime on this movie, James Cameron said, get out of my studio, okay? Zach and James Cameron and anybody who makes great movies, if you're making epics, they're going to be long. I don't know of any short epic. Okay, don't tell me about Infinity War and those things, because they're not epics. But the thing about them is they're all 3 hours long, 3 hours plus long, because you're making a big story. You're making a grand story on a huge scale. It's going to be long, and that's what Zach does. So, he does make short movies as well, shorter movies. He makes very short film. He can do that, but he wants to take his time and give you the biggest, best story he possibly can get. And they've been, Hollywood's been trying to, sink Zach for the longest while. Now they're starting to soften up to him. But really and truly, this is the man for DC. And they're going to have to come back to Zach. I already know this. There are very, very few directors that can get Superman right. If you're going to do a Superman movie, you will need Zack Snyder. And you cannot have a DC universe without Superman. You can't. And Dwayne The Rock Johnson is 100% correct. You cannot have a DC universe without Superman. So Henry Cavill has to come back. And the only Superman that can happen, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson is correct, and Zack Snyder even said it, is Henry Cavill. So, they're going to try and replace with some other Superman. It's never going to work. It's going to fail. I'm sorry. Let me not say it like that. And then I sound like those people who are trying to doom things. It's very rare. I'm going to put it this way. It's very rare that someone who, it's very rare to find the actor to play Superman, first of all. That's somebody who has to have had that lifetime commitment since he was a child. And second of all, it's very rare to get that combination with a director to pull off Superman. Please do not tell me about television. Okay? Tyler Huckler is cool Superman for television. He's not a cool Superman for movies. All right, you know what? I'm just a fan. What do I know about anything? Try him out, see what happens. Maybe he works. Maybe he doesn't. But I'll say this. It takes more to pull off Superman. You don't, Superman's not an easy character to be interesting. It's not easy to get Superman to be interesting. And again, the people who are watching Tyler Hoechler's Superman are not the same number of people who will go and see Superman in a movie. So when you look, and remember, the CW has been making losses. It's not been making gains. It's been a burden, right? So these people who are giving positive raise to Superman and Lewis are not the majority of an audience that will go to see Superman in a movie. Zack Snyder made Superman interesting. I can tell you that for a fact because I know Superman became interesting to me only after Zack Snyder took the reins of him. Okay? And people say, well, I want to see the nice. You will see that Superman. You will see the Superman that you know. But you have to give Zack time to develop and to show you how Superman became that Superman. So it's not superficial and frivolous and annoying to some people, and for some other people, something that, people don't want to pay attention to at all because they're like, that's unrealistic. I can't relate to that. Zack is making Superman very, very relatable. You can feel yourself and your life in Superman. You can say, I am Superman. That's how much Zack has personalized Superman. That's why people love Henry Cavill's Superman. People say, well, why didn't Henry Cavill's Superman move the needle for Black Adam? Why didn't it allow Black Adam to be a success? Because it's not just slapping a cameo of somebody in a movie that will make that movie successful. It doesn't work like that. Okay? The movie itself has to be a good movie. You could have the best Superman inside of a crappy movie, and the movie, therefore the movie doesn't. Movies are judged on themselves. Now politically, we could shift the landscape if Black Adam. If there's a couple things politically we can do to make the situation different. And I say politically because, of course, we have a campaign and a movement that is trying to restore the Snyderverse, and it has not died, and it will not go away, and it will continue to be on Twitter. It will continue to be everywhere on social media. This campaign is not ending. So that's why I said politically. Politically, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he still has options, but he's not utilizing them. The first one was when the movie was coming out, he should have aligned very strongly with Zack Snyder's Justice League. That was a high that these movies were coming off of. These movies were coming off a high. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Shout out to whoever's viewing right now and smash the like button. Just leave a little comment so I can know that you're here. and we can chop it up even. But the point is, that was a very, again, Zack Snyder provided a high for the Flash. He provided a high for Zack Snyder's Justice League. He provided a high for Aquaman. He provided a high for Black Adam. But will you take advantage of what Zack set up, the goodwill he had with Zack Snyder's Justice League? That is one of Zack Snyder's, the only, I think, Zack Snyder DCEU movie that was rated fresh by Rotten Tomatoes. And it has the highest of all DC films out there. He has the highest audience rating. Okay, the only other movie with as high an audience rating is The Dark Knight. So when they say since Christopher Nolan, this movie has been the greatest movie since Christopher Nolan, they keep on saying that over and over for all the other movies, with the fake hype and all of that bullshit. Just remember, Zack Snyder's Justice League has been rated as high as The Dark Knight by audiences. That's very important to remember. Okay. I would love to see this movie see theaters, but that's another story for another day. It will happen, but not necessarily, how we think it will happen. So I'm watching to see how that'll all pan out. But suffice it to say, my point anyway is not that. My point is, Black Adam had Zack Snyder's Justice League to come off of. That a plethora of a high, a real great high. Black Adam was coming off of. And instead of riding that wave to the max, and because you already embraced Zack's style, the cinematic style that you were putting out there was, a Man of Steel, Zack Snyder kind of style of doing things. It was kind of slightly uncanny valley styling because of the speed at which certain things were done and so on. It was kind of uncanny valley. It's not as slick and smooth and as well done as Zack would do it, but you could see Dwayne The Rock Johnson was doing everything he could to copy Zack's world. All right, say that this Black Adam could exist in Zack's world, and then you deny Zack's world, you deny the continuity of Zack's world, and you put in a blue suit Superman, and you get our fans trying to explain it away, mansplain it away to other fans who not buying it. We just came off of Zack Snyder's Justice League, ladies and gentlemen. Just came off of it. You copy everything but the continuity? Come on, man. Black Adam exists in Zack's world. Easy. You just tweak a couple things, and that storyline can go straight into Zack Snyder's world. And the problem is Dwayne The Rock Johnson never, for 1 minute, directly referred to Zack or referred to Zack Snyder's Justice League at any point. And Zack Snyder's Justice League was very successful, which is why Fandango actually showed Zack Snyder Justice League characters, not Justice League 2017 characters. Right? Very successful movie, coming off a high. And instead of riding that high, you're trying to make your own universe. That's selfish. That's stupid. It's stupid. Now, I'm not saying you can't have your creative freedom to make your own universe. I'm just saying all that work you put into it, and you wouldn't tie that to something successful and ride that wave, and you still have your little portion of that wave. You have your own little world. You exist with those other heroes there, but you have your own little thing. No, you want to try and reboot it so that use the head honcho in there. That's stupid, man. That's the thing that I couldn't understand, where ego get in the way of progress. And Dwayne The Rock Johnson's a hell of a, Black Adam looked very impressive. Everything about Black Adam was very impressive, And why would you sabotage everything, that you have going for you? Because you don't want to publicly state restore the Snyderverse. You don't want to publicly. I don't understand it. What flack are you going to get for that? Look at what your movie did. Your movie didn't do anything. It didn't move the needle. You know why it didn't move the needle? And not to say that it's the worst movie ever done. It obviously was better than the preceding movies because it made more money. But your movie didn't move the needle because you chose not to mention the Snyder Cut. You chose not to link to the Snyder Cut because you were under the old regime with Hamada and they, and you chose instead to go a different route, the Hamada route. You chose to accept the stupid Justice League 2017. That's why this happened. And to this day, I don't know what deal or commitment you did with Tommy Eric or Jeff Johns or whoever, you still have not acknowledged restore the Snyderverse. You have not said that. Not once. Okay? I'm not mad at Henry Cavill came back to play Superman. I'm not mad about that. What I am not understanding, and to this day not understanding, is why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will not speak about Zack Snyder, will not acknowledge Zack Snyder. Even Lauren Balfe, who borrowed themes, hook, line, and sinker from Zack Snyder's stuff, right? From Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL, the Superman themes and stuff. He doesn't want to acknowledge that. It's like, why are you not acknowledging these things? What is wrong with acknowledging that where your influences come from? Why do you feel so insulted? Oh, there was a team of people that put together this. Don't care. Don't care. Clearly, your film looks like a Zack Snyder film to some degree. So why is it that you have a problem talking about Zack Snyder? I never quite got it. They never, to this day, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has not in any way, shape, or form tried to link his movie to anything that Zack Snyder did. Even though everything about his movie screams that this is the style that he's trying to borrow. He's trying to be as close to it as possible. You know? I never quite understood that. And I guess he wanted the movie to make it on its own merits. I don't understand why he would do something like that. Maybe he thought the marketing campaign was enough, and the hype for Black Adam was enough to do it without any kind of help from Zack Snyder's Justice League. He didn't need a crutch, and they were trying, of course, to do away with that, I guess. The older regime didn't want nothing to do with it, to be honest with you. And they're still behaving like, nothing. We don't want anything to do with Zack Snyder. I see the shills out there. I see the certain fans out there. Clearly, they're following the company line of the old regime. Speaking about how, it was BVS that, has ruined this universe. And I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. If you guys ever embraced BVS, if you had actually embraced it, we wouldn't be in this position today. It's you guys. I can't even believe the back for fronted, stupid, retarded thinking that you think that BVS somehow has affected Black Adam. It's just stupid. I'd block people for saying stupid things like that on Twitter. The minute you start with that, I'm blocking you. I'm not even trying to engage you on that because it's just moronic. It's moronic logic. And if executives are still thinking like that, they need to just be fired. Fire these people. Okay? We just came off of the stem of Zack Snyder's Justice League. On right now on Rotten Tomatoes, of all places to go look. I don't really care about critical ratings, but this is a movie that critically, not only is it fresh, but it's fresh. The critics actually enjoyed it, which is weird because they didn't like BVS for some reason, and they didn't like Man of Steel collectively. Okay, it's a cumulative kind of thing where whatever is fresh, whatever. Numbers. It's a numbers game, whatever. Okay? Which to me is just a paradox, in my opinion, because, anyway. So, fans loved it. All right? It's one of the most loved movies by fans. The only other thing that matches it and actually comes up with the same Rotten Tomato score in terms of audience is The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger performance was just spectacular. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even trying to trip. Like I mean, Christopher Nolan's best work. I was not a fan of Batman Begins. I was not a fan of Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. I wasn't a fan of either of those two films. To me, they're still a slog to go through. But The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's performance is incredible, incredible, and that in and of itself is one of the best DC movies I've ever seen. Okay, bar none. I'm not even going to try and front. I'm not a great fan of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, but The Dark Knight is a wicked, 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 wicked movie. Period. Stands the test of time, which is why Heath Ledger won an Oscar posthumously. There's no denying it. I don't care if I like Christopher Nolan stuff, and when it comes to DC or not, that movie stands out as one of the greatest movies, comic book movies of all time. Period. Okay. And my point being, the only thing that even comes close to that, in terms of audience, this is just facts, by the way. In terms of audience rating, in spite of all the trolls and the people, and the people who are trying to peg it down, whatever, is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Okay? You can go right now on Rotten Tomatoes and see. Of course, once the trolls realize that, they'll probably try and peg it down. But I don't care. All right? So, for them to say that Black Adam was affected by Batman v Superman, after these people know that Zack Snyder's Justice League came out and is universally appraised by everyone, is just plain stupid. Okay? It's stupid. All right? And then the second most the second highest money making movie of the DCEU, not DC, of the DCEU is Batman v Superman in the theaters. Period. So for them to say that Batman v Superman hurt the DC brand is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay? And I'm not saying that Warner Brothers didn't hurt themselves by cutting runtime, and that movie would have made more money if it was the runtime that it was supposed to be. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that in no way, shape, or form, Batman v Superman, even though critically was panned by critics who didn't know what the hell they were watching anyway, I'm not saying that Batman v Superman theatrical cut is the greatest comic book movie of all time. I'm not saying that. The Ultimate Cut is one of the greatest. The theatrical, I can see why people feel the way they do about the theatrical cut. Okay? They were expecting one thing and the theatrical cut gave them something else. And plus, it was not a linear spoon-feeding kind of movie. It still isn't. Even the Ultimate Cut is not really a spoon-feeding kind of movie, but it explains a lot more. But for anybody with, a reasonable brain, somebody who's maybe 11 years and up, can follow the movie anyway. The theatrical cut I'm talking about, they can follow it. I enjoyed it because it reminded me of, something that's avant-garde, something that, foreign films don't necessarily follow a linear pattern. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much I went and saw it 10 times in the cinema, okay? In various cinema formats. And I defended the movie vehemently, as you guys know. And I never lived to regret it. I think the theatrical cut is amazing still to this day. I know a lot of people, it was something that was different, completely different. And I know a lot of people didn't know how to react to it. Some people were very depressed that Superman died. Some people, again, they thought Batman killed and stuff. And they never seen such a brutal Batman. But some people really enjoyed it because they know that Batman was going to face up with Superman to the death. Some people even wanted Batman to kill Superman. So there's all these different ranges of feelings inside of that movie. Me personally, I really enjoyed it. The badassery, the plot, the story, the twists and turns. The ending was very sad. I'm not gonna lie to you; it was sad, and I think Superman fans were very devastated that Superman died. Even though at the end of the movie you saw the dust rise up from his coffin. But what I want to say is that that movie changed comic book movies and the comic book movie landscape forever. Got a lot of hate when it came out, and even before it came out, it got a lot of hate from Marvel fans. But that movie really changed the landscape forever. And to this day, he got the Razzies Award and all of that, but to this day, that's a movie that stands out. It's one of the greatest movies of all time in terms of its ultimate cut. Is tremendous. But theatrical's not that. I definitely don't think the theatrical deserves what the critics said about it. It doesn't. That's not the point, though. The point is trying to take a movie that is 6 years ago and peg all the demise of DC on that movie is the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. In fact, after Batman v Superman, the movies that preceded it, besides the heavily tampered studio Justice League 2017, all did tremendously well and actually made more profit than that movie. So we had Suicide Squad, which made more money. Again, the studio interfered with that, obviously. Then we had Wonder Woman, which critically was scored well and fans loved it, and that made even more money. And then we had after the uh, after the Justice League debacle, we had Aquaman, which made even more money. It made tremendous amounts of money, and of course, assisted by the fact that Jason Momoa was saying release the Snyder Cut. And what I was trying to explain to Dwayne the Rock Johnson is the moment you say restore the Snyderverse, or the moment you start to acknowledge Zack Snyder as a great director, or the moment you start to say that the Snyder Cut was really tremendous, the moment you start to consciously say these things, and say, Zack Snyder's a great director, I hope they bring him back and stuff like that, you start talking along those lines. Your Black Adam movie, which is still in theaters. I went to the theater just recently there. I saw it. I didn't go and watch it, obviously. The moment you do that is the moment Black Adam comes back to life. And then all of a sudden your box office starts to wake up and starts to do things. But you're not doing that. So, you're going to end in doom. And that's on you. Okay? You can't blame anyone for that. That's on you. But yes, with respect to the Snyderverse, with respect to the Snyder Cut, with respect to Zack Snyder returning to DC, I do expect that to happen within a year from now. So before the end of 2023, I expect Zack Snyder to be back doing Justice League Part 2 and Part 3. It has nothing to do with who's in charge or I truly believe that's going to happen. And the reason that's going to happen is inevitable is because everything else is failing. Everything else that they've tried to do with the universe, they've tried to reboot it with Justice League 2017, that failed. They tried to reboot again with Black Adam because they were trying to go in the direction of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but they were trying to make it more Snyder-like. That failed. You got to have Zack Snyder in there carrying the universe. I'm not saying he has to make the films, but he has to be there coordinating the universe. James Gunn and Peter Safran, I wish them all the best. And, I have well wishes for them, but I do not see the way how James Gunn is talking. I do not foresee but more flops because the way how this universe is moving is not because of Zack Snyder. The tonal direction that Zack Snyder had for this universe was working. It's when they did the tonal shift, and it happened first with Suicide Squad, then it happened even more with Justice League 2017. And now the four barrage of movies that happen, where it's BOP, Wonder Woman 84, The Suicide Squad, and now Black Adam, those four movies, they've had the same formula has been applied to all four of them. The same one that they did with Suicide Squad. And so it has not been working. It has not been working. It will not work. And if they keep on trying to push the issue and trying to force it to work, it will not work. even more, and they're pushing away fans by doing that. That is not the way to go. The way to go is not just the look and feel. You got to get the guy back in there that knows how to build worlds. He is the world builder. You guys should have trusted that guy, and you would have seen things rise higher and higher. And the critics and everybody would have gotten around to seeing, oh, this guy and the movies that they're making are really good movies. But you didn't allow that to happen. You didn't have confidence in the dude, and now you're gonna have to bring him back, and he's gonna have to still do the same thing he was doing before because he's going to be very successful on Netflix. He's already very successful on Netflix so far. And he's only going to get more and more successful as time goes along. The longer you wait, is the more his value is going to go up and it's the more expensive he's going to be. So you're doing yourself a disservice and you're shooting yourself in the foot because DC's not going to be able to recover very soon. DC's going to be a doormat. You guys are going to have to lease out the properties. And Zach's going to get his hand on those properties. And Zach's still going to do the movies. So ultimately, in the end, Zach's going to win. He's going to win. You're going to lose. There's nothing you can do to stop it from happening. And that's why I try to keep on explaining to these people. I'm trying to explain to these people, why not win too? Why not be on the winning team? All right? We ain't going to watch none of your movies. And it's not that you got to understand the political element of it, of course, but it's not that you won't find people that like your movies. There's going to be people who like your movies, okay? There are going to be people just like entertainment. They like entertainment, but because the people who came to the DCEU came because of Zack Snyder, it's going to be very hard for you to just, pivot this way and expect these people to support you. They're not going to support you. They're just not going to do it because it's not about just any content. And some of us don't go to the cinema that often. We like to make it an experience that we enjoy. And Zach provided that unexpected experience that we did not know we were looking for, So to go back from that is just, and so what wowed the world and got DC up on the top, competing with Marvel and all these other guys, whether it's the Transformer movies from Paramount or Hasbro or whatever. What got DC on the map in terms of a universe was Zack Snyder. And you're not going to just get that just so. You may find a handful of directors who could actually do what he did. And Nolan's a brilliant guy, man. He knows talent when he sees it. He had it to Christopher Nolan, man. Christopher Nolan's the guy that brought this guy to the light. To comic book guy, love comic book movies, loves telling the lore, and he got this dude. And now Netflix got him, and who knows who else will have him. But I know I'm going to be watching more of his movies. So Rebel Moon, definitely going to be seeing that. The rest of the Army of the Dead movies, whatever else he decides to put his hands to, I'm looking forward to it because I'm a big fan of his work now. And I go back and I watch some of the movies he's done before, and I realize how much he was speaking about more or less the same topics, but yet different angles and aspects of them that are just very interesting. So that's all I got to say for now. But I do think that Warner Brothers would be in their best interest to do a team up movie with these main heroes and all the other people. Now, I haven't heard anything about Ray Fisher. So if we're not hearing anything about Ray Fisher, Ben Affleck's back, Henry Cavill's back. We know that they're trying to keep Ezra Miller on board. Gal Gadot's still there. The question is Ray Fisher coming back? And is there room for him? And also Zack Snyder. This is very important because them two guys, once Zack Snyder and Ray Fisher are back in there, because it seems as though, I'm going to be honest with you, it seems as though Warner Brothers is trying to reconcile with everybody. All the creatives, they're trying to include them in the scenario and make it a win-win for everybody. That's what the feeling I'm getting. Okay, I don't know if it's still that way, but even with James Gunn meeting with the Batgirl directors, it feels like they're trying to, okay, we're going to scrap the Batgirl film. It probably wasn't, the best way to go and the thing we really want to do. But we're going to use the actors. We're going to use the people. We're going to use you back. You're going to get to showcase your skills, but just in something else, at the right time. So if that's the way how they're moving, and they're trying to really mend bad bridges, and they're trying to help everybody, that would be good. Now, James Gunn is saying some stuff that don't seem to always vibe with everybody. But he's kind of the interactive piece because Peter Safran ain't saying shit, right? He isn't saying anything. Um, but I would say this. I would say that hopefully under Max DeLuca and Pat Abdi, because it seems as though you still got to get by them. They got to okay whatever it is you're doing. Hopefully, maybe maybe there'll be some no's from them as well as to what Gunn and Safran may come up with. You say, well, revise this and look back at this and so on. And if that's the case, then we're in for a good ride. We're in for a good ride. Maybe the alarm bells need not be rung yet. Um, but I'm just talking the politics of the thing. But I'm just saying they got to get back Zack Snyder, man. They got to get him. Maybe there's somebody else out there that can bring entertainment value to DC and more love to them. But I just don't understand why you wouldn't bring back Zack Snyder to do his Justice League 2 and 3. I don't understand why you wouldn't hire this dude and greenlight things as of yesterday. I don't care what money situation you say you have and what budget or whatever. You gotta get the guy back. I don't care what legal ramifications they trying to do to block what the previous regime tried to do to block him coming in. Get that man back. This is not about ego. This is about getting results. You got to get that man back. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not gonna get somebody like he don't come a dime a dozen. They were saying. I remember when they were saying that Michael Keaton, anybody could play Batman, right? Um, and they tried with Val Kilmer, not the greatest success. They tried with George Clooney, that flopped, right? And it took many years after for another director and another actor, to have to sign a multi film deal to make Batman work again, okay? Because the combination between Tim Burton and Michael Keaton was something special. And these stupid people don't understand that it don't come like that. It don't come every day. When you get a Zack Snyder Henry Cavill combination, that don't come every day. That'll take you another 30, 40 years to get that combination again. When you have it, you run that motherfucker until it can't be run no more. And that is what they are not getting. They're not understanding that. Right? They're not understanding Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot don't come every day. Oh, we're going to get another director to run my... No, it doesn't work like that. That chemistry between Patty Jenkins and Gal is a special chemistry. And if Patty says she going to walk, Gal is going to walk. And then y'all going to be effed. Y'all going to be effed. I'm telling you, man, that combination don't happen every day. When we say Wonder Woman, we're talking Patty Jenkins as director. Ain't nobody else could do it. Ain't Zach, nobody else can do it. Zach can do his his version of Wonder Woman, I'm sure. But not like what Patty can do. And y'all need to understand, that's what Warner Bros. Is not valuing and they're not understanding. And y'all better be on the nice side of Patty because Patty know what the hell she doing. She didn't have the right people around her, but y'all need to really, pay attention to that. That's not something you're gonna get every day. You're not gonna get a James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy every day. Not every single kind of director out there can do Guardians of the Galaxy. You gotta understand what it is, what you have. And that's what these studios don't understand. So they screwed up Zack Snyder and they screwed up what he was doing. And they screwed up David Ayer and what he was doing. All right? And that's because they do not understand and appreciate relationships and chemistry. They don't appreciate that. Right? When you think of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you don't think of Will Smith's aunt as the red lady that replaced the dark skinned lady. I forgot what her name was. You think of the dark skinned lady. They did her dirty, of course. They removed her from the set. She never forgave him for it until recently. But the point is, you got to understand when some people fit the role of what you want. You have to know when you have an iconic character fitting a role that belongs to them. You know, because when you remove that, take for instance Captain America, right? Right now, I think it's the guy that was Falcon is playing Captain America or something like that. I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, it don't work. When you take Luke Skywalker, you kill him off in The Last Jedi, right? You kill him off. It don't work because what George Lucas did with the early Star Wars is what people connected with, and they love these characters. See what I'm saying? So there's certain things you just don't mess with. You say, "Oh, we can play around with these other factors, but we're not playing around with this." Just like how people talk about Superman, the core values of Superman, you gotta keep those core values. You can mess around with everything else, but you gotta keep Superman's, you know, uh, essentially a good person. Superman does not kill. You want to talk about people talk about Batman doesn't kill. Batman's about justice, vigilante justice. Okay, he's not a killer. He ain't gonna go around just shooting people like the Punisher. He don't just go around doing that. But people do die, and there's collateral damage, and he does sometimes go out and purposely want to kill people, but he don't succeed at it, right? But Batman's all about justice, balancing the scales. People who don't get justice, he want to make sure they get justice, and he's a preventative kind of guy. So he want to intimidate the criminals so that they will not commit the crimes that they do or put them away. Okay, he's a detective, right? That's what Batman is at his core, right? And he's kind of like the Robin Hood. He's like the Zorro, right? He's like the Shadow, right? He's that kind of dude. That's what Batman is. So Batman's not looking to kill people, and he's probably the least likely to kill people. And he's very empathetic with people he's caused to be in the situation, or he feels he caused to be in the situation. So Joker threw him in a vat of acid, so he feels Joker went crazy off of that, and his life was sucking and all of that. And so he feels empathy for Joker. He feels empathy for Harley Quinn. He feels empathy for Killer Croc. He doesn't want to really kill him. He don't want to just get rid of him. He want him to go in a mental institution, which is why Arkham Asylum. He want him to be rehabilitated, even though it's kind of the most dumbest logic you'll ever hear. But that's what these guys cannot. They're beyond rehabilitation, but that's what he thinks. So that's why these characters stick around. That's Batman. Okay, Superman does not kill, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he will kill, but he don't like killing. Superman just doesn't like it. He try everything in his possible power not to kill you. Because Superman's about helping, restoring, fixing, saving. That's what Superman's all about. Okay? He will fight a threat. And if he has to kill it, he will kill it. All right? If he has no other choice. But he is the least likely of the Trinity to kill. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, will kill you. Okay? She will kill you. That's what she, if you are a threat, she will kill you. Period. Right? So, that's how that Trinity goes. That's how that Trinity goes. Period. And Wonder Woman is the most trained in combat out of all of them. She take on anything. And she's the first to jump into battle. She's the first to jump into Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman movie, 2017. Who goes across no man's land? Wonder Woman, right? Who's the one leading the charge in the Great War? Hippolyta, Wonder Woman's mother. The Amazons, they train for war. They prepare for war. So they're not afraid of nothing. One, two, they go into battle, you don't have to say boo. If it's for a great cause, they're going into battle. They don't hesitate. They have zero hesitation in them. And you saw it in the Themyscira battle with Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? You saw them. Steppenwolf says, I will, something in your fear, and and Hippolyta laughs. She laughs him. She mocks him, and she says, "Daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear." And obviously, they have no fear, right? They have no fear. They are warriors. All right, they're loving, kind people. They're cooperative and all of that, but they got zero fear. Okay, and we've seen it over and over again. They're very compassionate, kind, loving people, right? Because all they do is train for war, right? But they also have a society, and as we saw in Wonder Woman, they have a society, and they're very logical, they're very reasoning, so on and so on and so on, right? And it's a nice society. It's a great place, right? The point is, though, while they are peace-loving people, if they have to take up arms, you are effed up. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Okay, do they have compassion? Of course, they have compassion and all of that, but I'm just saying they don't hesitate to go into battle for a cause. That's life or death. They don't hesitate. Okay, so what I'm trying to say and explain to people is that people complaining about Batman. He kills, and he's killed in almost every single movie that we've seen him in. Almost every single movie Batman has killed in. It's not that I'm not relishing in the fact that he kills. He doesn't relish in the fact that he kills. Okay, depends on his mind state, depends on his mood. In fact, more so in Batman v Superman, Batman inevitably collateral damage, having people die in the movie because he's so reckless and he's so brutish, is not an admirable trait. Even though it is very exciting to watch and badass to watch on the screen, it's not an admirable trait. It shows that he's declining and he's moving away from his fundamental values. Okay, it's showing him going deeper and deeper into villainy, deeper and deeper into, deeper and deeper into revenge and evil revenge. He's turning evil, right? And we saw it reach its peak, and the music was even playing to that when he pulled out the Kryptonian spear and he's going up to kill Superman. He's going to murder him, okay? But he doesn't murder him, right? Because Batman doesn't murder anybody in this movie. And again, if you've ever read Death in the Family, he was trying to murder the Joker as well. He was looking to assassinate him, very much the same way. So, and he was also very brutish, and he had been, he'd get damaged and injured, but he would also hurt a lot of people and cause a lot of collateral damage, and he wasn't thinking straight. So that's the Batman that we saw in Batman v Superman. So, and we never have seen that Batman since, right? We've seen him in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's taking on, of course, parademons and much more powerful beings than himself, and he had to have weaponized stuff to deal with that. We've never seen a Batman on the screen that had to deal with superpowered beings, except for Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is a unique thing, and even the nightmare scene where people seeing Batman using a gun, and they're like, Batman doesn't use guns. Oh, you better use guns against parademons. You better use something. You better use weapons that are high-level powered weapons that can take down a super-powered alien. Okay, you better be able to have that. So of course, him using these high-powered weapons in the nightmare sequences and so on is absolutely necessary. What is he going to do? What's he gonna do? Throw a smoke bomb? Come on, man. You know what I mean? And they're killing left, right, and center. They're killing his rebel people, and so on. So no. Sons of Batman. So you have to understand what you're up against. If you're up against things that are just superhuman, you have to use things that can take them out, right? So I never quite understood all of that. People saying Batman never kills. I know he has a no-kill rule. Okay, we all know that, and it started way back in I think it was the 1940s or 1950s. We know about that. He doesn't. He tries. He tries not to kill people and stuff. Yes, he tries to keep his rules, but he breaks his rules sometimes. Okay, And so, and then you have to know where Batman is in his life, in his career. What his mindset's like. Because Batman is a guy who keeps balance, not just with Alfred, but other people sort of balance him out. Otherwise, he would, go to the dark side very easily. He has principles, but he can go to the dark side. So the Batman we saw in the Batman, Matt Reeves, the Batman, they played it safe. Mentally, he wasn't really all over the place, right? And it was a new Batman, but he was mentally all over the place, which we would expect from a new Batman somewhat as he's trying to find himself, but not in this movie. All right. Yes, he was using some drugs. He was using adrenaline to pump him up and to keep him going, which made sense. But again, in the Batman, it's a very safe movie. Matt Reeves did some very unrealistic things, like the little wire things that they had on the beams and stuff. It's just unrealistic. But in reality, they would never have this stuff. But you just kind of, even with what was it? What movie was that? I can't remember where Batman was skydiving and stuff. Um, I think it was. I think the movie was. Yeah, it was The Dark Knight. In The Dark Knight, Batman again was unrealistically fighting some guys in a building. It was just so unrealistic. The fight scene. You could see it's highly choreographed and everything. And again, not to say that the movie wasn't grounded. It's just that certain scenarios and certain scenes where you trying to show that you don't kill are just unrealistic. Much guys would just light you up. Multiple guys would just light you up. Whereas when you look at the warehouse scene with Batman fighting, very realistic. Well, not very realistic because he's really really strong for such a guy. He's super super strong. So it's kind of not realistic in that respect. It's grounded. It's very brutal, very violent. But again, you could see that, hey, if guys was trying to shoot at this guy or fight him or whatever, and he disarmed all their guns, it's very realistic that now they have to find some other way to deal with him. So I found that very interesting. Um, anyways, my point, which I kind of strayed from, is they'll need the Trinity. I think they need the Trinity. I think Zaslav is right. You have to push the Trinity. That's the approach. Anything moving away from that, deviating away from his initial opening statements and the plan that they have with Abdi and DeLuca, I think it's not going to help the situation. You know. So anyway, this was a long, long video with you guys. I just got up. I decided to shoot this video. I wanted to just leave a little bit of scripture and then get myself out of here. My hairline is messed up. Anyways, I want to just leave a little bit of stuff with you guys. Oh my gosh. I think I read it before. I read it in a short. I'm still going to read it again for you guys and then I'm out of here, okay? Oh, man. Of course, this video is very informal if you haven't realized. And I think it's in the middle of the day. I think the day is almost the middle of the day anyway. Oh, man. I lost it, but I'm going to get it back. I'll read a little bit below it, I think. Oh, man, I am so tired right now. I don't know why I'm so tired. I'm still tired. I just woke up and I'm tired. I think it's because I ate before I went to sleep. Yeah. Okay, I didn't read this before. Oh, man. All right. This is what it is. John chapter 1, verses 43 40. To the end. Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Come, be my follower." Philip was from Bethsaida, Andrew and Peter's hometown. So Philip went off to look for Nathanael and told him, "We have found the person Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." "Nazareth!" Nathanael exclaimed. "Anything good could come from there." "Just come and see for yourself," Philip said. As they approached, Jesus said, "Here comes an honest man, a true son of Israel." "How do you know about me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus replied, "I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi," or teacher, "you are the Son of God, the King of Israel." And Jesus answered him, "Do you believe all this just because I told you I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than this." Then he said, "The truth is, you will all see heaven open, and the angels of God going up and down upon the Son of Man." Okay. So, what's this about? In Galilee, there's a place called Nazareth. Nazareth was like the slum areas of Galilee. All of the criminals, murderers, and robbers, and stuff like that came from there. So, when Philip told Nathanael that there was this guy from Galilee, Nazareth of Galilee, there, that he should come and see,